Welcome Cancer to your in-depth monthly forecast for November 2026. I'm going to share with you some of the big themes of the month to begin with, then on screen the event chart for you right at the beginning of November always provides an influential backdrop for the whole period. I'll then go through each of the key influences in detail to give you a clear picture of what to look forward to in terms of your ascendant, sun or the moon. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundell, a very warm welcome. I have found that over 50% of people who regularly watch my videos are not subscribers. If that's you, please help the channel to continue to thrive and do so now, but also please click or tap the bell notification symbol. Also, you can watch your year 2026 Cancer Deep Dive forecast by clicking on the link beneath this video too. You can see what's upcoming for the new year and really prepare yourself for that. Your ruler is the moon, and as you come into this month, the moon is in a beautiful angle to the sun in the part of your chart, the sun, which can showcase the things in life which bring you joy, whether that's children if you have them and their activities, whether it's your creative or artistic flair, or whether it's meeting up with friends and being sociable. So that's a lovely combination as you come into this month. But of course you also are particularly influenced by lunations. We have a full moon on the 5th in the earthy and sensuous sign of Taurus, where the moon loves to be. She's exalted there. It's her second favourite position after being in your sign. But of course, full moons can push into the open quite a lot of energies for good or bad. For you, this one may be asking you to balance the time and commitment you have a little bit better. So you may find that there's some things you want to focus on over the next 2 weeks, and not everybody may get what you want to do, but it's about keeping them informed. Now, the new moon, which occurs on the 20th, is a stunner. It's in Scorpio, where the moon is not at its best. It is in its full, but this one is supported by Jupiter in your sign, but also Saturn. Jupiter is going to be going retrograde on the 11th, but just to say, when Jupiter moved into your sign early in June, it was immediately afflicted by the planet of restriction, Saturn, and that's known as the greater malefic, Jupiter the greater benefit. So you haven't necessarily had the best of times with Jupiter in your sign, but late last month, if you recall, Jupiter and Saturn started to align in a very constructive way. And as you come into this month, they're still forging an excellent link. But I've got something to tell you about the end of this month that goes beyond the new moon, which is really exciting for you. So can't wait to share that. Now, Mercury is going to be going retrograde just like Jupiter. Uranus returning to the sign of Taurus, and we're also going to have Mercury inverting in its retrograde back into your sister sign of Scorpio. So there's lots to share with you, but before I do, I'd just like to tell you about my unique special offer. You can order your personal forecast for year 2026, totally individual to you. You can order that now, get the rest of this year free, but also with my special package, get 30% off in your Life Roadmap Report. For me, the Life Roadmap Report, the natal chart, the Radix interpretation is the most powerful document any of us will ever read, because understanding the patterns that are played out in our lives all the way through our lives helps us to work future forwards in a much more effective way. But in that special package of 30% off, you'll also get your free gift of a general zodiac, a love zodiac, an Indian zodiac and a Chinese zodiac forecast booklets, which will be sent to you with the chart. Please see the link below for more. But on the screen now, I'm sharing your event chart. So there you can see the moon's in your 9th house. Now the 9th house can be about a need for personal independence, space and freedom. And of course it can be about our home. If you are wanting to prepare for the festivities and you have people coming to stay, you may find that you want to declutter with the moon being in this location. But look at that connection to the sun. When these two are collaborating like this, it's a trine. That's a lovely, delicious balance. So if you do find yourself being more spontaneous, getting together with people that really are good company, I think that's something you can truly enjoy. But let's look at that position of Jupiter in your sign. At this stage, not in retrograde, but look at the position of Saturn. So virtually an exact trine, all but a minute. Now Saturn's going to end its retrograde on the 28th this month. If you have been finding since the 11th of July that anything to do with your professional situation has been very oppressive, or you have just felt closed in and your options have been somewhat limited, there are opportunities to work with that this month, I think, in a constructive way. But also, as you come into this month, Mars, the planet of thrust, of desire, and at home in its traditional sign of Scorpio, is linking into Jupiter and Saturn in a very constructive way. So if there are things that you want to do different, shake things up, that moon, sun trine, but also that grand water trine are giving you a lot of push to communicate your ideas and your passion, but also be very much in touch with your instincts. Perhaps the only challenge at the start of this month is the fact that Mercury and Uranus are directly opposite, and also Venus is challenged by Saturn in a quincunx. What's the implication? Well, I think again, if you do feel that your life is somewhat dominated by routines that don't really feed your passion, they're not your sole purpose, I think there's going to be a desire to break out. And with Venus in your fourth house, you could be really enjoying your home at the start of this month, and it could be that something to do with a home business or a crafting interest you have can be very something that's really engaging you. But because of Saturn being in that ninth house, again, if you're wanting to do something different, does your home, emotional and family life allow that? And I think we have on the 4th, just going into the detail of the month, Mars thrusting into the sign of Sagittarius. Now the good thing about this, if you have been feeling that you want to be a bit more virtuous, I know it's not the time of the year when people usually think about diets and being more abstemious, but actually Mars moving into the 6th house can give your stamina quite the boost. And if you are wanting to up your exercise routine, that can surely help. But it can also give you a lot of thrust around dealing with those practicalities that perhaps Mercury initially in that opposition with Uranus may find challenging. We have that full moon on the 5th, but it is blessed by the North Node. Whatever you decide to do in terms of that time management or who you spend time with, whether it's socially or romantically, I feel that you're going to be drawn to those people who share your philosophies, and that's going to be something that's really heartwarming for you, not least as Cancer, because on the 6th Venus moves into Scorpio, replacing Mars. In the technical sense, Venus is not at its best in the sign of Scorpio, but for you personally, this is very much to do with playfulness, sociability and glamour. But it does clash with Pluto almost immediately. Pluto's about power, and it's in the part of your situation to do with where you're most invested, or it can be about long-term finances, but also more psychological developments in your life. But I feel Venus squaring with Pluto here could see you drawn magnetically to someone that you find rather irresistible. But you need to ask yourself the question, are they really going to be good for you? But once Venus moves past Pluto, you do have a window of opportunity over the next month to have some fun. And perhaps even some flirty fun too, but also to strut your stuff and really feel very desirable, and that could pep up your love life too. Now Uranus, as I mentioned, does return to the sign of Taurus on the 8th, going to be there through to the end of April, the 26th. And for you, that's about connecting again with people who share your values. Very, very important. And that can bring, from now through to the end of April, some sudden but also very stimulating changes in your long-term plan. They may not be ones that you've been contemplating, but once you get over the initial surprise that something is shifting, I think actually you can embrace it in a constructive way. With Mercury going initially retrograde in Sagittarius, being very precise about details is important. Sagittarius really doesn't like details so much, it likes the big picture. But that retrograde stays in that sign through to the 19th, but on the 12th meets with the advancing Mars. You might find yourself with quite the set of celestial tools. If you want to discuss something, or you want to explore the detail of something, do some research, or do a proposal, you can do so with precision, but also passion. Absolutely fabulous. But the 11th does see Jupiter go into its retrograde in your sign. But as I mentioned in the introduction, Jupiter didn't get off to the best of starts in the sign of Cancer on this particular visit. Jupiter comes around every 12 or 13 years. It's not an exact cycle. It's going to rewind through to March the 11th next year and invert by 10 degrees. If you have got planets in the sign of Cancer, between around about 27 and 13 degrees, Jupiter may slow things down a little bit. But it also is an opportunity to examine those philosophies, because remember, that full moon and Uranus inverting back into the sector of idealism in your chart are asking you to be drawn towards what really feels right for you, to meet your philosophies, and that's what Jupiter's about. So if you have been pursuing something that has showcased your talents as an individual but doesn't quite connect with that sole purpose, that Jupiter retrograde could prove to be valuable to you. Now on the 19th, Mercury inverses back into Scorpio. In some ways that can be really good. It's possible that you're going to re-engage with something where you can be creative that maybe you thought had passed by, or something from your past, a strand you can pick up again where you can be more self-expressive. The new moon on the 20th, as I mentioned before, is a crackerjack, however. It's in your sister water sign of Scorpio. It can be very much about joyfulness. It can be about self-expression. It's where you can turn your personal charisma power up to max, because despite Jupiter's retrograde and at this point in the month Saturn's, it could, on the face of it, seem that you're not going to get the best out of that new moon. But I feel that you will get the best out of that new moon. And whereas the full moon earlier in the month perhaps challenged your direction or who you were spending time with, you're going to clarify it over the following month from the 20th. But the 22nd does see the Sun move into the sign of Sagittarius, joining up with Mars, and it is asking you to really turn any ideas you've got into something that gives you a tangible outcome. That doesn't sound very sexy, does it? But remember, at this point you still have plenty of energy going on with Mercury and Venus in Scorpio to continue to be self-expressive. And then, although we do have Saturn stationing direct on the 28th, the link between Saturn, Jupiter and Venus is wonderful at this point of the month. Mercury also goes direct on the 29th in your 5th house. If things have felt at some point daunting, uncertain, there's been a switchback that you weren't expecting, you can start to make sense of it at this point. Now, if you do meet someone as the month draws to a close and Venus moves into a much more practical part of your chart, it's just asking you to stay in touch with the value of that alliance in a more earthy way, despite the host being the free and easy Sagittarius. And the best way to make any kind of relationship work well is through, I think, being considerate. Just little thoughtful gestures can go a long way. But if you have met someone that's been very passionate and dazzling, perhaps with that Venus square with Pluto earlier in the month, here Venus is asking you to perhaps just shake things out a little bit and understand what the impact is going to be in a more routine way, which, as I mentioned just now, doesn't sound very gripping, but it could be that this is the point where you actually start to make it really work in a more functional way. So the big picture of this month for you is two actually very constructive lunations, but the second one is a stunning one, and Mars in the mix with Jupiter and Saturn earlier in the month and Venus later in the month. So that suggests your passion and self-expression are given an opportunity to flourish, but perhaps there is also going to be some changes, especially with Uranus returning back to Taurus, Jupiter retrograde, Mercury retrograde as well. So just prepare yourself to flex. There could be some fluidity this month, but as you come to the end of the month, if you've got ideas or talents that you want to really make work in that more practical way, the planets are certainly going to help you to take your star quality into something that gives you a lasting impact. Thank you so much for joining me. Do check out your year 2026 deep dive forecast by clicking on the link below.